William Clyde Thompson, a champion for the Yowani Choctaw. The Yowani Choctaw Saga, Book 2. Written by Leaford, Leven, Blevins, Jr. Narrated by Mike Hennessy. Preface. Part 1. This book began as a search for memory. My ancestor, William Clyde Thompson, lived through one of the most violent and uncertain times in our nation's history. He was not a general whose name filled the newspapers, nor a politician whose words shaped the course of events. He was instead one of the thousands of young men swept into the Civil War, and like so many, his story nearly vanished into silence. William Clyde was my first cousin, many times removed. His survival did not shape my own family line, but it shaped the destiny of thousands of others. Without his persistence and legal acumen in the years that followed the war, countless descendants of the Yowani Choctaw would have been denied citizenship in one of the greatest Indian nations of this country. Their ancestors had been part of the tribe for centuries, long before removal, yet only through his determination did their rights endure. For that, each of us owes him a great debt of gratitude. Had he not survived the war, his fight in the courts could never have been waged, and the doors of opportunity and belonging might have remained closed. In these pages, I have tried to balance history with narrative, fact with imagination. Where the records are clear, I have followed them. Where silence reigns, I have written what might have been, always guided by the character of the man and the people who shaped him. This is not only a story of war, it is a story of the Choctaw, of resilience, of injustice, and of endurance. It is offered as both a family remembrance and a contribution to the larger history of the Yowani Choctaw, whose voices deserve to be heard. Prologue, Part 1. Before the legal battles and before the struggle for recognition, there was the war. This first part of the story follows William Clyde Thompson through his youth in Mississippi, his induction into the Confederate Army, and his survival through some of the bloodiest campaigns of the Civil War. Though he was not destined to be a general or a figure whose name would appear in school books, his endurance mattered. Without surviving the war, he would never have been able to carry forward the legal fight that preserved the Yowani line within the Choctaw Nation. Thousands of descendants alive today owe their standing to the persistence and survival of this one man. Part 1. Hardening Resolve. Chapter 1. The Stench of Death. In the 1830s and 1840s, knowledge of disease was limited. Malaria and typhoid fever were common in Indian Territory, but their causes were not understood. People believed in the miasma theory, that sickness spread through bad air, especially the stench of decay from swamps, stagnant water, or unburied corpses. Quinine was sometimes used against fevers, but most families relied on flight, fire, or prayer. At Fort Towson, when fever struck, bodies often outnumbered coffins, and the air itself was feared as deadly. Fort Towson, late August 1839. They smelled it long before they saw it. The air thickened as the wagon drew closer to Fort Towson, the scent of pine and smoke giving way to something sour, rancid, and suffocating. Margaret pulled her shawl tighter over her nose and mouth, but it did little to blunt the reek. James said nothing, but his eyes narrowed, his jaw set hard against the wave of stench rolling toward them. The fort's palisade came into view, and beyond it disorder. Bodies lay in rows beside the rough cabins and barracks, covered with quilts, coats, or nothing at all. Too many for the shallow graves being hacked into the red clay. Dogs prowled the edges, driven back with curses and thrown stones. "Lord, have mercy," Margaret whispered. A woman staggered past them, face pale, her eyes wild with exhaustion. She clutched a child to her chest, the little one listless, head lolling.